His eyes darkened, anger flushed, but he forced it down. He wanted to lash out to assert control, but obsession kept him in check. Every nurse screamed at him to hurt her, but he didn't. Instead, her fear shimmered, letting her understand completely who controlled the situation. By the time they reached the private jet, energy was falling. Her legs trembled so violently she could barely stand. Jungkook dragged her up to the steps with price control. Her cries echoing in the inside. She curled up in the leather seat, burying her face in her hand, trembling violently. I don't want this, please. I want to go home. Her voice was hoarse, broken. Jungkook's jaw tightened, anger flashed in his dark eyes at her defense. Her tears, her fear, but he controlled it. He leaned against the seat behind her, silent, letting her sobs, watching every shiver, every tear. The sight of her trembling, so small and helpless, was maddening. Obsession twisted inside him. She was his, and he had to control her, but he also wanted to feel her fear, to watch it and bend it to his will. You will learn, he said, finally, voice low and dangerous, smooth like silk, our steel. You belong to me now, no one else, not your brother, not your family, only me, and you will obey. You pressed her trembling hands to her face, her sobs increasing. The words cut her more deeply than any slap ever could. She was trapped not only physically but mentally, completely under his control. The private jet's engines roared to life, but she barely noticed. The sound of her own fear and sobbing was louder, more suffocating than anything else. Jungkook watched her quietly control her storm within herself. Rage, desire, obsession, they churned, but he didn't touch her. His presence was enough. Her fear, her trembling, her helpless, it belonged to him. Every tear she shed, every flinch, every tiny shiver, he claimed as proof she was his. The jet lifted off the mansion, her home, and the world she had disappeared beneath the clouds. Inside, the cabin was smaller, darker, suffocating. Jungkook remained behind her, a silent shadow. His control over her was absolute. You trembled violently, pressing herself against the seat, even though he hadn't touched her, even though he hadn't raised his hand. She felt terror wrap around her like a living thing. She was utterly, completely afraid of him, and he knew it. And somewhere deep inside, Jungkook smiled faintly, a dangerous glint in his eyes. Her fear was his, and she had nowhere to run. The private jet cabin hummed with quiet tension. You said, curled into herself, trembling violently, her eyes red from cries, her small frame shook under the weight of her fear. Every shadow in the cabin appearing threatening. Even the soft hum of the engines made her flinch. Every movement Jungkook made, every step, every glance made her heart hum as though it will burst. A few minutes later, a crew member entered carrying a tray of food. The smell of warm meals filled the cabin, but you barely noticed. She pressed herself to her face, attempting to hide, to make shallow her appetite entirely. A Jungkook voice cut through the cabin, calm, cold, merciless. It carried a weight so heavy it felt as though the air itself pressed down on her. You flinched violently, pressing further on the seat, her trembling increasing. I can't, I don't want, she whispered, voice shaking uncontrollably. You will eat, he said sharper this time, or you will regret it. Do you understand? You body froze. She wanted to scream, to refuse to run, but deep down she knew there was no escape. Trembling violently, she lifted her fork, taking a few bites. Her hand shook so much she nearly dropped it, but the weight of his gaze forced her to comply. Every movement made her stomach crunch. But disobedience seemed impossible. Her trembling didn't go unnoticed. One crew member, a young man, hesitated nearby, his eyes flicking towards her. "Something about you," her voluntarily, the way she flinched catch his attention. He lingered for a moment too long, and that small unconscious act drew Jungkook's eyes immediately. They went black, pure, unrelenting, very the calm control he normally maintained vanished in an instant. Her heart froze, her body stiffening. She pressed herself into the seat, trembling violently, unable to move. "What are you looking at?" Jungkook's voice was low, dirty, yet it filled the cabin like a storm. The crew member froze. I was just... he stammered, panic spreading across his face. Jungkook moved faster than thought. In a blink, the man crumpled onto the floor, lifeless, blood pooling beneath him. The entire cabin seemed frozen in shock. Yu gasped, hands flying to her mouth. Her knees shook violently. Her small body trembled from head to toe. "No, no, no, please, please," she cried, pressing her face into her hands, sobs breaking free uncontrollably. Her tears streamed down her cheeks. Her voice was small, desperate, breaking under the weight of her fear. Her trembling arms as she tried to unplug her seatbelt, panic, desperate to run to escape, but Jungkook's head was suddenly on her, fire merciless yet cold, controlling. He pressed her back into the seat, stopping every attempt at flinch. He whispered, voice low, smooth, and dangerous, "Calm down. You are safe, and only I control this." You shook violently, sobs tearing through them. She tried to move to escape his grip, but his hold was unbreakable. The cabin felt smaller, suffocating. Every instant screamed at her to run, but she was utterly powerless against him. His presence alone was overwhelming, dark, and unescapable. "You are mine," he said quietly, almost softly, but with an edge sharp enough to cut every tear, every trembling shiver, every fear. "It all belongs to me. Do you understand?" Your sobs increased. "I don't want this. Please. I am scared. I can't." Jungkook's jaw tightened as he watched her trembling. Anger, obsession, and dark satisfaction warred within him. He wanted to comfort her, to pull her close, yet he also wanted control. Her fear, her terror, her helplessness. It all belonged to him. He would allow her to stop, allow her to tremble, but she would never forget her place. She was his. Every emotion, every reaction was under his command. The crew member's lifeless body on the floor was a grim reminder of his power. Yu, wide, terrified eyes darted towards it. Her hands gripped the seat as if it could hold her together. Her trembling intensified. She tried again to unplug the seat belt to flee, but Jungkook's voice cut through her panic. "Calm down," he repeated, firmer this time. "You trembling didn't stop." Her sobs were loud, wrecking her small frame. Every word from him, every glance, every shadow he cast seemed to reinforce the chain of fear that wrapped around her heart. She was trapped completely, utterly. Her fear belonged to him. Her terror was claimed. The cabin was quiet now, save for the soft hum of the jet engines. Your body trembled lightly. Her small frame curled into herself, cheeks streaked with tears. She had been crying for hours, every sob wrecking her tiny body, her chest heaving under the weight of fear. Exhaustion had begun to settle into her muscles, dulling the edge of terror that had gripped her since the flight began. Jungkook remained beside her, silent and cold, the dark gaze fixed on her every movement. He had controlled, commanded, and dominated her fear for hours, and yet a strange tension pulsed inside him now, seeing her this small, this vulnerable, this fragile, it strikes something dangerous, obsessive, and deeply possessive. Yusuf softened as her eyelids grew heavy, her trembling slowed through a faint shake remind. She pressed her hands to her face, hiding her red eyes, trying to hold back the last remnants of tears. Every breath she took was uneven, catching on the remnants of panic that still pulsed through her veins. And then, almost without realizing it, her head tipped slightly and it landed softly on Jungkook's shoulder. He stiffened slightly at the unexpected weight, feeling the heaviness press down gently, almost like a physical confirmation of possession. She was completely exhausted, utterly defenseless, and leaning on him without even knowing it. His chest tightened, dark satisfaction curling through him like fire. She was his entirely. Fear, trembling, tear, and even this fragile dependence, everything she was belonged to him. Her body shuddered lightly, then relaxed, her breath evened out soft and shallow. You had fallen asleep, unaware that she rested against the man who terrified her most. Jungkook's lips curved into a faint, dark smile, the first sign of satisfaction, of acknowledgement that he had shown since this journey began. It was not gentle, was not soft, it was predatory, possessive, a dangerous satisfaction that thrilled him. Her vulnerability, so complete and raw, was intoxicating. He shifted slightly to accommodate her, careful not to walk her, yet deliberately close, ensuring she could not slide away, could not escape. His hand hovered just above hers, a slight guardian of control. Every breath she took, every tremble, every soft whimper in her sleep was his to witness, his to claim. The sky outstretched endlessly, but inside the cabin a different kind of darkness pulsed, the quiet, obsessive dominance Jungkook had over her. Her head on his shoulder was not just weight, it was proof, a tangible reminder of his control, for her helplessness, of the obsession that would never release her. You slept on, trembling lightly, even in rest, exhausted from tears and fear. And Jungkook, feeling the heavy weight of her small hand on his shoulder, allowed a faint dark smile to linger, savoring the movement in her fear, her weakness, and her helplessness. He found a dangerous satisfaction. Her nightmare had not ended but for a fleeting movement in the quiet of the night. Jungkook's obsession and her fragile sleep intertwined, a dangerous, intoxicating, and inescaped reality. The jet touched down, smoothing on the private runway in Italy. The sudden jolt made you startle, but she was too exhausted to open her eyes. Her head was still resting against Jungkook's shoulder. Damn, from the endless tears she had cried. Her small body was limp, drained of her strength. Jungkook glanced down at her. Her face was pale, her lashes wet, her lips trembling even in sleep. She looked fragile, like a porcelain that would shatter at the smallest touch. For a second his jaw clenched. He had dragged her into his world for revenge, for power, for control, but seeing her this helpless, asleep against him, brought a darkness mixed with strange addictive satisfaction. When the jet door opened, Jungkook didn't walk an instant. He slipped one strong arm beneath her legs and the other around her shoulders, lifted her effortlessly, her head fall against his chest, and she remained asleep as he descended the stairs. The cold Italian night wrapped around them, but inside Jungkook's hold she looked like a fragile doll. His men bowed their heads as he passed, not daring to speak. Everyone knew better than to question him, especially when he carried something, or rather someone, with such dangerous possessiveness. Minutes later, the black convoy of cars pulled up before this Italy mansion, a place more than a home. The building rose like a dark fortress, lit by golden candle chandeliers and guarded by stone statues and men. Jungkook carried you straight inside. The marble floor gleamed, the ceiling soared high with crystal chandeliers dripping golden, but he never stopped to admire it. His steps were firm, his eyes forward until he reached the master bedroom, a room so luxurious it looked like something out of. He laid her gently on the enormous satin bed, its sheets black and smooth as silk. For a moment his hands lingered near her cheek. Her breath was shallow, her face calm, only because she was too tired to fear him in sleep. Her lips twisted in a faint, dangerous smile before he turned and left the room. Hours later, your eyes fluttered open, her chest tightened. Instantly confused, folding her mind, this was not her home, this was not her brother's house. The ceiling was high, curved with golden. The bed beneath her was too soft, too expensive, too unreal. Panic rushed through her veins. She sat up quickly, her small hands clutching the blankets to her chest. Her eyes darted around the giant mirrors, the velvet curtains, the golden lamps. It was breathtaking, but it felt like a prison of glass. She swallowed hard and throat dry, her legs trembling as she climbed out of the bed, her bare feet touching the floor. Polished marble floor. She wanted to scream, to run, to escape, but where? Slowly she opened the heavy double door and stepped into the hallway. Her heart raced as she moved, every sound echoing in the endless silence. The mansion was beautiful yet terrified. When she finally reached the lounge, her steps fluttered.